what red tape is out there when I get my renewal? What are my options? If number one, if you're not getting your renewal within 60 days, then you need to figure out why that is. Is it because they reached out to you and you didn't respond? Was it just something that was it you? If it wasn't you, and you did prompt your either broker or your PEO to start sharing some of that information, and they keep kicking the can down the road, like, yeah, we'll get it to you. Oh, we're waiting on hearing back on something, and they haven't shared it with you. A lot of times it's because the renewal doesn't look good and they don't want to have that conversation with you. They want to put you in a position where, your hands are tied and you just have to sign it and move forward. Why do they do that? Well, because it's very likely that if you have a 25 or 30% renewal, right, you're probably not going to be able to have your pick of the litter when it comes to the PEOs. If you're trying to go from open market to a PEO, or if you're on a PEO and you want to shop. The other thing is you do need about 45 to 60 days to actually vet a PEO out, get your quote, and then make a decision and onboard onto a new one. And that revolves around like getting payroll and all those things transferred over. And then on the broker side, sometimes they just slip. They may not have reached out to you on time because they were worried about another client case, or maybe they were losing another client, or they're onboarding someone else. So ultimately, if you want to give yourself the best opportunity, just know 60-day mark, you should have numbers back. And if you don't, then you should reach out to either the carrier or you should reach out to your broker. Now, a lot of times the carriers will ask you to talk to your broker because that's part of why they are paid by the carriers to manage your account, right? A lot of times you'll have a broker, you notice you don't get a bill from them. They're not just, out here just doing free work. The carriers pay them a commission, and you have the right to ask for that commission in certain states, right? In our state of California, we have to share what our commission is so that clients do know. And I like that transparency. Why? Because we do get paid a fee to service your account. And one of the big things is helping you through that renewal, helping you negotiate with the carriers, like, hey, if you got a high renewal and it doesn't make sense, well, why? Why are we getting this high renewal? Is it because we used the plan more than we anticipated we did? Should we work together to figure out a better cost sharing strategy? Should we maybe look to some other supplemental plans, or maybe there's more education for the employees? Maybe one guy just, I don't know, every time he sneezes, he goes to the emergency room, right? You need to have time to prep for this stuff. So ultimately, if you're getting high renewals, I think that's a symptom of you not having a great plan that aligns to your employees. And it could be a symptom of your system, your operation for how you work with your benefits broker, right? If you're constantly ignoring their emails, you never want to meet with them, it's just, hey, send me something, it better be good, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice there because you're not allowing them to do their job. And again, like, your broker should be involved in the process of helping you select the plans. Also, if you see the plans and the renewals and you're not happy with them, then you should be able to ask them, hey, can we search other options? I know for our clients, a lot of times, we may recommend that they go on a PEO, or maybe sometimes it makes sense to come off the PEO even for a little bit. Maybe we just carve out the benefits. Maybe we do it with the workers' comp. I mean, overall, it's about working with somebody who's truly a trusted advisor, understands your business, and takes the time to get to know your people, because like, the benefits are all about supporting the people, and your broker should know how to help you out with that. Also, there's other things too that are red tape. A lot of times, I'll give you an example. There's different benefit platforms out there. Ease is a popular benefit platform. And, a lot of people get Ease from their broker because their broker is comfortable with it. It's something simple for them to use and manage stuff in the background, but that might not actually serve your team. You might actually decide, like, hey, we're going to go with, let's say, Paycor or Paylocity or Rippling, and it would be easier for our team to manage the benefits inside that system. So, there's times when, slowing down and learning how to use that EDI feed may not be comfortable, right? I mean, we've certainly had to set up systems at some point from inception of the business to serving our clients. And there's a little bit of a learning curve. But there's different ways to integrate those APIs. There's different ways to find systems that work well for you. And ultimately, you got to find a broker, a team that's willing to support you and also challenge you when you're wrong, right? Because you don't always know everything that you need to know. And there is times where I see clients, they're in a situation where they get a 49% renewal. And then the next year they get a 38% renewal. And then they come to someone like me. And, my question first is like, why are we getting such high renewals? And they say they don't know. And then when I start doing some investigating or working with them, I find that, well, if you keep trying to get the cheapest plan, the cheapest plan, the cheapest plan, the cheapest plan isn't always the cheapest plan, right? We've had some people where it's like, hey, they let this problem bleed out for a while, and you get a 17% renewal, a 28% renewal, and then you switch carriers, and then they promise you the world and they only give you like a 12% renewal or a 12% increase in price. And then all of a sudden it's another 49% renewal. Then you go to another carrier, and then within 5 years, 6 years, all of a sudden you've gone to all the major carriers in your market, and you're kind of in a position where you may only be able to get an ICRA, or we get those letters where they say decline to quote. Now you can push back onto the carriers and say, hey, like, we absolutely demand to get a quote, right? You can always do that. But if the quote's unaffordable and the carrier sees that it's not a good deal, then they're going to give you a decline to quote letter. And that lets you know that, you don't have a great insurance plan or strategy long term. You're just kind of going from year to year, bouncing from cheapest deal to cheapest deal. And that's not always the most effective. That's why, it's also important to do this timely, so you can start looking out 2 years, 3 years. What happens if we have a 9% renewal, or we go from 17% to 12% to 4%? Or what if we go from 37% down to 10% and 10%? If we change carriers or go to a new PEO, can we do a rate lock for year 2 potentially? Because we don't want to get that big fluctuation. And it may be doing that, we run the numbers and we see month over month, if we can get that rate lock and negotiate those terms early, maybe the PEO can help clean us up, get our act together, help us have systems in place where the employees can be educated. They can have a really good open enrollment. They have access to, a health advocate or someone who can tell them, hey, what's the right way to properly go through this plan? If you're switching carriers from, say, United to Aetna, you may want to have somebody you can talk through for, hey, how do we get continuation of coverage? There's a lot of different ways to, do this. And that's why it's important to have the time and to work with somebody who has the patience to walk you through your process and meet you where you're at. And it's okay to ask all these questions. And for those people who, feel like they need to go with the blue chip company and they can't get, all the time and attention they need, then, that's when you need to just look around and say, hey, who's willing to work with me? And a lot of times some of the smaller agencies or the more boutique brokers, right, as people may say, they might be a better fit because a lot of those folks might have been the best in class employees at these large companies, and they're able to take those processes and bring them to you. They don't have quite as much overhead. They're not just a salesperson. They might be the owner of a business, right? That's kind of like one of the ways we're able to work with smaller groups and give them the same attention that we would a 300 employee group, right? We can give to a 30 employee group because we don't have all the same overhead. We don't have all the same, requirements. So, those are just some thoughts and ideas around, how you can avoid some of the red tape, and, just what I think is out there. And, and ultimately you should work with somebody that cares about you and your team and takes the time to really vet out all the situations and hear you out. You want to work with somebody you can communicate well with.